Hey, welcome back to the Good Call YouTube channel. I'll be your host. This is going to be the second part of our Road to Nonsuri videos. If you haven't watched part one, stop what you're doing right now and go watch that first, because this will probably make less sense. Yes. So today we're going to go to the metal shop and buy some 18 gauge sheet steel to do our fender vents, and we're going to weld those all together. So let's get going. All right, we're here at M&K in Gardena. Let's go buy some steel. This place is huge. Okay, so we're back from M&K, and what I love about that place is that they will leave out sheets of like scrap cut metal for a discounted price. And so I went and scooped myself up this little sheet here, and we're gonna measure and trace our vent triangles and start tacking those together. All right, now we get to cut all these triangle pieces out. So let's get our safety glasses on. I'm just kidding. Actual safety glasses, please. All right, let's go. So remember, one thing you want to do before you start tack welding your piece in is you're going to want to scrape all the paint off of the surface here. I usually just grab some 80 grit and we'll start scuffing the paint off. Otherwise, you're not going to get a nice weld, and it might not even arc at all, so do that. All right, so there's one more thing I have to do before I cut the top triangle out, and that is trace the curve of this fender, because it isn't perfectly flat up top. It does have a bit of roundness to it. So I'm gonna grab a little piece of cardboard, and with a Sharpie, I'll trace a line here. Now, just looking at it like this, it looks like it's a straight line, but if you grab a nice little straight ruler here, you can actually see if we line up this top line, you can actually see the curve get bigger at the end here, even though up here, it's pretty much straight. So there's a slight curve to account for. All right, so we've got our little triangle pieces tacked in. And the important part here was that I wanted to maintain the curve here on this metal, as the entire fender kind of has a little bowed out part to it. And I didn't want this to be flat and then contrast to this, which has a nice curve to it. And the way we ended up doing that was with the angle grinder here, just slightly cut along the door piece here. Originally, when we were pushing the metal in to create this vent, without this little relief cut, this whole piece was actually flattening out, and it was becoming, if anything, like concave rather than staying convex. And so now, I don't know if you can kind of see, it is still very much convex the whole way. Okay, so now we're gonna finish welding all of the triangles on. The best way I've found to do stuff like this, you know, thin sheet metal, if you're using a flux core welder, is just to tack and tack and tack and tack and tack until there's no more space. Just keep stacking tacks, and that'll kind of distribute the heat in the most efficient way, and you'll get minimum warping, and it'll just be a lot easier to work with. So don't get discouraged thinking, oh, like you need a TIG welder or, you know, something fancy like that. You don't. You can probably do this with a couple of batteries and a stick welder, honestly. So let's do it. So you can see we've got like halfway decent heat distribution through that top little piece here. Now we can do the same thing on the bottom side here, and then the same thing up top. All right, so the fender vents are all welded together. It's not the prettiest job on the planet, for sure, but it doesn't really need to be. As they say, an angle grinder and paint hide the welder that I ain't. So that's how that'll work. Plus, I mean, we have to do a little bit of body filling and stuff like that. So all that is gonna get kind of covered up. And as long as the fender is held together, that's all that really matters. So don't be afraid to tackle a project like this and make ugly booger welds like this, because one, no one's gonna see them, they're on the inside of the fender, and two, the metal is bonded. I mean, you can clearly see that the weld has penetrated, so go out there and do the thing. Now, I'm gonna call it for a day. It is 1,000,000 degrees out here as California is experiencing the weirdest heat wave. So join me next time for part 3 of this. We'll be doing the destroyed fender, and maybe we'll get started on the rest of the long nose part. I don't know, we'll see. And I almost forgot to do the YouTube thing. Thanks for watching. Click like, subscribe, post notifications, turn that stuff on. Do that thing, please. Dear God. All right, so we've got the